In the high stakes world of global politics, sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought with massive armies, but over a single piece of land. And right now, believe it or not, the focus of multiple world powers is on one specific airbase in Afghanistan. So let's break down exactly why. So, that right there, that was the Taliban's defiant response to a really startling demand from the United States. Yep, you heard that right. The US wants one of its old military bases back. And just like that, a demand like this has put two old adversaries on a brand new collision course, years after the US pulled out.
So yeah, there you have it, a direct confrontation. On one side, you've got the US wanting Bagram Air Base back, basically saying they gave it away for nothing. But on the other side, the Taliban, who are now in charge, see this as a matter of national sovereignty. It's totally non-negotiable for them. And this really sets the stage for a whole new kind of standoff.
So, what's the big deal? I mean, why does this one airbase, which the US just up and left in 2021, suddenly matter so much? What is it that makes Bagram the strategic prize of Central Asia? Well, for 2 whole decades, Bagram was basically the nerve center, the beating heart of the American war effort. But its real importance, that's not just about the past. It's all about location, location, location. I mean, it's got this incredibly powerful geographic position that puts it right on the doorstep of some of the world's biggest powers. Just let this number sink in for a moment. 1 hour. From Bagram, that's roughly the flight time to the exact part of China where they develop and store their nuclear missiles. 1 hour. That's incredibly close. So, when you boil it all down, Bagram's value is just immense. You've got that crazy proximity to China's nuclear arsenal. You have its perfect central position for keeping an eye on Iran. And then there's the 2 decades of intelligence infrastructure that's already built in. It is, without a doubt, a geopolitical grand prize. Whoever holds it gets this unparalleled view of America's #1 global rival. Okay, but this isn't just a two-player game between the US and China. Not at all. Bagram's fate is actually at the very center of a super crowded, super complicated regional power struggle. You could almost call it a modern version of the historic Great Game. Afghanistan has always, and I mean always, been the crossroads of empires. It's this place where the interests of Russia, China, Iran, Pakistan, and India all just slam into each other. So let's take a look at the chessboard, shall we? Let's see what each player really wants out of this new reality. Now, what's really fascinating here is how all these different goals just immediately clash. I mean, look at it. China wants stability for its big infrastructure projects. Iran, on the other hand, might actually prefer a little managed chaos to keep the US on its toes. And then you have Pakistan and India, who are basically using Afghanistan as a proxy battleground. It's this tangled web of conflicting pressures, and the Taliban are stuck right in the middle of it. But, beyond all this geopolitical chess playing, the actual situation on the ground inside Afghanistan is, well, it's dire. And that reality, that harsh reality, shapes every single decision the Taliban has to make. And it all starts with this one fact. Officially, Washington does not recognize the Taliban as the legitimate government. And that one policy, it complicates everything. We're talking about international diplomacy, desperately needed aid, you name it. And the consequences of that? They're absolutely catastrophic. I mean, look at this number, 23 million. That's how many Afghans, roughly half the entire population, need humanitarian aid just to survive right now. And then there's this. The poverty rate could hit an almost unbelievable 97%. The economy is just in an absolute free fall. And amid this total collapse, it's estimated that more than 700,000 jobs have, poof, just vanished. So you've got this massive humanitarian crisis, and making it all so much worse is the Taliban's systematic rollback of human rights. A recent UN assessment really puts it in stark terms, especially when it comes to the rights of women and girls. I mean, the restrictions are just sweeping. The Ministry of Women's Affairs? Gone. Replaced. Girls are barred from getting a high school education. Women are now banned from a lot of public spaces, like parks, and they can't even travel long distances without a man. These rules are so oppressive that UN experts are now warning about potential gender persecution, which is a crime against humanity. Okay, so with Bagram completely off the table and 0 American troops on the ground, it raises a huge question, right? How can the US possibly counter the growing terror threats coming out of that region? Well, the official US strategy is called Over the Horizon. Basically, it means fighting from a distance, using things like drones and intelligence gathered from way, way outside the country.
On paper, it sounds clean, it sounds low risk, but in practice, well, it faces some really big challenges.
And really, this is the core of the problem, isn't it? How effective can a remote strategy actually be in a country as incredibly complex as Afghanistan? I mean, it's one thing to see a target from 30,000 feet in the sky, but it's a completely different thing to understand what's really happening on the ground.
And the hurdles here are just massive. First, there's no partner force on the ground feeding you intelligence. Second, the nearest U.S. bases are in places like Qatar, which means a drone has to fly for 14 hours just for a round trip. That seriously limits how much time it can spend over a target. And maybe most importantly, without human intelligence, people on the ground, it's so much harder to track and verify who's a real threat and who's just a civilian.
And the risks that come with these intelligence gaps, they're already becoming clear. While the U.S. is struggling to see over the horizon, groups like al-Qaeda, well, they aren't waiting around. In fact, some estimates suggest their presence in Afghanistan may have already doubled since the U.S. left, as they start rebuilding their strength in this new sanctuary. So in the end, this whole standoff over Bagram Air Base, it really reveals a much deeper truth. Afghanistan is still a nation desperately struggling for its own sovereignty, caught right in the middle of everyone else's great game, all while its people are facing a catastrophic humanitarian crisis. The real question isn't just about who gets to control one airbase. It's about whether the country and its people can ever truly escape the powerful pull of outside forces and finally control their own destiny.